Hi, my name is Sanam Zaer, and I'm here with Bridgette Hylton, and we are a part of A Better Shrewsbury. We are here with our friend Ridha to talk about her program, Stop Prejudice. But first, we're going to start with our random question. And this time, Bridgette has the random question.
Okay, so the random question that we came up with for today is what's a skill or talent that you have, and what's a skill or talent that you wish you had?
That is a great question.
Thank you.
I don't know if this really counts as a skill in particular, but over the summer I learned how to make banana bread, and it's really good. Like it's
Yum.
very simple and very good,
And yet
so
you didn't
easy.
bring any, Ridha. What?
Yeah.
I know, I should have. I should have.
Yeah.
And then what was the second part of the question?
What's a skill or talent that you wish you had?
I wish I could sing. I like out of anything, I wish I could sing. Like,
I think that's a
cannot.
common one,
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
You don't want to hear me sing, but I would love to be able to.
Researchers have shown that singing is actually a skill, not a talent, not a natural ability. So
Okay.
that anyone can sing, they've said, with enough practice and patience. So I
Or
thought
if
that
you're
was
just
interesting.
in the shower,
Yeah.
like I feel like
Every day.
that,
Yeah, every day. You get the
that
vibe.
skill really just
Develops
comes
that
up.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go next? I don't know my answers yet.
You don't know your answers? Okay.
No.
A skill or a talent that I have. I guess I probably should have thought about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, this is kind of a quirky, weird thing. But I do a lot of like small crafting and stuff like that.
Oh, fun.
And I am pretty good at estimating small measurements. So like if you give me a piece of paper and you're like, I need 30 strips cut 6 inches, like I'll be able to cut.
If you could choose
ton.
any skill in the
That's
world,
like so
that's
niche,
what-
but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what came to mind. Like, it's
Yeah.
just a
Okay.
random thing, I think, because I've made so many small things that my brain is just like,
So at your
wired that
funeral,
way.
you want me to be like, Bridgette
Definitely bring that
Hilton
up.
was just so
Definitely.
good at cutting small strips of
Definitely.
paper. Okay.
Definitely.
All right, I'm going to do it.
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
just
do it.
can estimate. I always tell my kids, measure never, cut as many times as it takes.
Okay.
It's
All
bad
right.
advice if you don't have this not natural, but this skill that I have. It's not a good advice, but because
Okay.
I kind of am so used to it, it's very easy for me.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my skill or talent that came to mind. And one that I wish I had. God, there's so many things that I wish that I could do that it's hard to even begin. Singing, of course, is one. I wish I could sing better. Gosh, everything.
Everything.
Everything. I mean, I'm the type of person, like, I love to try new things. I love to have new experiences. So if it doesn't involve eating seafood or jumping from a high plate, like, I would probably like to learn how to do it. Like, you know how I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, gotta refinish this furniture. Never done it before. I'll figure it out. Like,
It's true. Sometimes I'll call her and I'll be like, oh, I need to, I don't know, fix this thing in my kitchen. She's like, I'll just do it. And I'm like, you have
I did
a
fix your
full-time
dishwasher. I did
job.
fix your dishwasher.
You did. She did. Yeah.
That's
She just
impressive.
came and did
Honestly,
it.
that is a
It's
skill.
true.
Thank you.
No, but in every day you have like 10 tasks you need to accomplish. And she's like, I can do all of them. And I'm like, I know you can, but I'm going to hire someone because you have a full-time job. So we're going to just go with the
That's
plumber
probably-
to fix my toilet.
Yeah, that's probably another thing that I have, which is there's very few things that I don't feel that I could do.
Okay.
Like there's
Yeah.
you would be really hard pressed to be like, I need to build an engine, and I would never be like, I can't do that. I'd be like, let's look it up on YouTube.
I love that. That's such a great
Like,
mentality
I just
to have,
don't.
though.
Why
Like,
not?
Imagine all the money you save.
Yeah,
true.
I do save
You
a
do
ton of
save a
money.
lot.
I hardly ever have
Yeah.
anyone come to my house to do anything, and I come from a family like that, so I think it's something that was sort of
Built into
nurtured
you. Yeah.
in me as a kid. Like, fix it,
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
Okay. A skill that I have is actually both of mine are the same thing, but in a weird way. So a skill that I have is that I can kind of do everything. Like not super well. Yeah. No, I mean like if you tell me paint a picture, I can paint you a decent picture. If you tell me sing a song, I can sing it and people wouldn't leave the room, but I wouldn't get like a record deal. If you tell me to, I don't know, do a dance, I can do one, finish the choreography, but I'm not winning any
You
awards.
won a dance competition recently. What are you talking about?
That was a group, and I was in the back. So,
So
no,
yeah.
I wouldn't, and that was third place. So, like, I wouldn't
Oh,
call
sorry, third
myself.
place.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was the winner there. That was anyway.
a winner.
So I can kind of do everything, like jack of all trades type thing. And same with the stuff you're saying. Like, if there's something to fix, I can probably put something together, but I'm not going to do it really well. And then in the same way, I wish that there was one thing that was my shining
Yeah.
quality. Like I
Same.
wish, same as you, I wish I was
Yeah.
a just beautiful singer that when I like sang, the room would stop and listen, or that I can paint a picture and move people to tears. I don't have a talent like that.
I'm
Well,
sure you do. You just
No,
don't
I really
realize
don't.
it.
I don't.
I don't
You-
either.
That's why.
Yeah.
So
No, but
I,
my best friend from high school, Nadine, she is a singer. So like you can't talk about singing and I don't think of her.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I have that thing that when people
It's
think
not.
of, they're like, oh,
Right.
Bridgette. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what's, I mean, I think that's part of the spice of life, right? Like we just get to have all these different things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
and it's actually funny because I just had my
potpourri.
40th birthday party, and everyone was sharing a totally different memory of me. Like some people were saying, "Oh, I remember when we used to beatbox together," and somebody else was like, "Oh, we both like plants," and these things have nothing to do with each other. But I just have these like
Pockets.
these little micro communities that I'm a part of and micro interests, but I don't have like one thing. Like, yeah, so that's I guess my skill and my not skill at the same time.
Yeah.
That's probably part of life, I feel.
Yeah, I think
Everybody's,
it is.
You're all
Yeah.
trying to find what is
Your thing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what's your
Yeah.
passion? Like I think for me it's definitely something in the creative space, but it's like all creative things. Like I do it all. You know what I mean? Like I'll try
It's
it
true.
all.
The searching
Like,
is
I
the
don't-
fun part.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just not hit on the one thing.
Yeah, maybe someday.
But we didn't just come here to talk about our skills and hobbies today. We wanted to hear a little bit, Ridha, about the STOP program, which you started
Yeah.
in the Shrewsbury schools. And could you tell us a little bit about what the program is? And then we'll.
For sure, yeah. So basically, STOP stands for Students Together Opposing Prejudice. The program was started in 1991 in Sudbury, and it was in affiliation with the Anti-Defamation League, so it was like the super big, super legit thing. And it just so happened that like over the years, it kind of weaned off a little bit. At least in Shrewsbury, they opened up a branch here. I'm not too sure exactly when it was, but it was when I was in middle school because I was a participant, and that's how I even got introduced to the program in the first place. But they ended up shutting down the Shrewsbury branch just because of a lack of involvement. And as I mentioned, I'm at UMass Amherst, and I'm part of the South Asian Student Association there. And one of the events that we threw was a talk with professors from South Asian and Asian heritage. And they were just talking about their experiences and, how to tackle Asian hate because, this is also around COVID and it was very relevant. And while I was sitting there listening to the panelists speaking, I was just like, oh my God, like this really reminds me of that program I used to do in middle school. And I looked into it and got in contact with the leaders of the Sudbury branch just to see how's it going and like what would the possibilities be for me to open up a branch here. And they were super on board and super supportive, and it was so awesome. And it took a lot of coordination. But it worked out super well and super exciting that it's actually happening. But it's still in the works right now, and obviously we're learning as we go. But hopefully, I feel like I want it to be a thing that repeats every year.
Yeah.
And it seems like the students are super into it. I have heard feedback from a lot of the high schoolers saying that they want to come back if I do it again next year. But yeah, that's kind of the basic gist of how it got started.
So
awesome.
my daughter's actually in this
Yeah,
program
she
and
is.
she is loving it. But
good.
for people watching, can you talk about like what the students are actually doing each week and where they're going and which groups they're visiting?
Yeah, so basically the program is a DEI initiative, and so one aspect of it is going to different organizations and congregations to learn about what they're doing. So this year, all the organizations are local religious organizations. So far we've been to the Sikh Gurdwara in Westboro, we've been to the Worcester Islamic Center, and we have been to St. Mary's Parish, which is local, Shrewsbury. And so part of the program, the first half hour or so is basically there's a representative of the organization come and talk about, what they do, what they represent. And then after that, we break out into small groups, and there's middle schoolers who the program is targeted towards, and there's high schoolers that help facilitate the discussions that they have. And so it's awesome because it's a leadership opportunity for those high schoolers, and also the middle schoolers get to learn something really meaningful out of it. And yeah, so we talk about, like the first session, we talked about personal identity, and then we talked about group identity. And in the most recent sessions, we've been talking about how to tackle discrimination, like active tactics that they can utilize in the case that they are in a situation where, people are feeling uncomfortable and there's something that's happening that shouldn't be happening. So yeah, I really hope that they learn a lot
It
about
sounds
it.
like an extremely valuable resource to have in the schools and for the students. And,
Yeah.
is it something they opt into? Is it an after school thing? Is it?
Yeah, so the way that it's structured is it's a 7-week program. So it happens on Thursdays this year, just because that happened to be the day with the most availability for the organizations and for students themselves. And we meet from 6 to 8 p.m. essentially. And yeah, so it's like an after school program. It's not affiliated with the schools. I remember when I was first, advertising on like Facebook and just kind of getting general interest about the program, there was just a concern saying that obviously it seems like a really great initiative, but teachers are really busy, schools are really busy. It doesn't feel like a reasonable thing to be adding onto the curriculum in addition to everything that students have to learn. And I totally understood that, and that's part of the reason why STOP is a thing. It's an extra thing, but I definitely feel like it's something that everybody should be a part of, and everybody should at least get a little bit of a, their head into
Exposure
it.
to
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
yeah.
A little bit of exposure to it. But yeah.
That's exciting. I mean, speaking about, tools to kind of challenge prejudice, discrimination, one that I've taught my kids and that I use quite frequently is, what did you mean by that?
Yeah. That's a great question.
And
Yeah.
it's one of the least assertive ways, I think, to make a point.
Yeah. for
Like, because
sure.
you're not saying you said this and that. It's, oh, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. 'Cause I
And
think
then when
also,
people have to explain what they meant, I think sometimes that leads to understanding, like, oh, maybe I did just say something crazy, like, or inappropriate.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially since they are kids, like sometimes they say something and it's not exactly what they
meant.
meant. So I think that's a great way to kind of have that conversation that doesn't seem like very,
Yeah.
attacking them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that this year you're going to different religious organizations. Is that the intent for every year, or each year is focused on kind of a different diverse group, I
Yeah,
guess?
yeah, great question. So basically, this year it just happened that it was the easiest to get in contact with religious organizations. But I remember when I was a middle schooler, as part of the program, we also went to like a local refugee center. We went to an elderly home. Part of the session is we went to the library and we had somebody come and speak about Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a whole range of different topics, different groups of people. And I would love to incorporate, more of that next year. But with it being 7 weeks, it was just, try to get what was most convenient right now. But yeah, I think it would be a great thing. And also we rotate between curriculums. So every year, say your daughter wants to come back next year, she wouldn't be learning the same thing that she learned this year. It'd be a rotation so that students, if they wanted to come back for the middle schoolers especially, like they would be gaining new information every single time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it had quite an impact on you as a child, because you are, trying to promote this program and kind of inspire other young people to get excited about combating some of the prejudice and injustice that we see in the world. So I think that's a testament to how powerful the STOP program is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've been born and raised in Shrewsbury, but I went to an Islamic private school from K through 8th grade. And so when I was part of the program, I was at this Islamic school. And I think part of the reason why I felt it was so beneficial to me was because my only exposure, were people who were like me. And so being part of this program, I got to meet so many people and experience so many new things that it was just mind-blowing to me, that so many people exist out there that are so different from me. And I'm sure for like the middle schoolers that are part of the program, they're feeling the exact same way. And I remembered the impact that it made on me, and I really just wanted to, spread that impact because I feel like it's just so meaningful.
That's awesome.
That's something Bridget and I talk about a lot. Like,
Really?
sometimes when you get involved with a religion, it comes with the perk of having the community, but sometimes it almost
insular.
becomes a bubble and becomes insular, because then you don't experience other things. So my daughter, she's in this program, and she's been coming home with just the cutest questions that, and there's things that I don't talk about with her. And the only reason she's even asking these questions is because they're coming up in your program. So like last night they went to St. Mary's Church, and then she got in the car and she's just asking me all these questions about baptism.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, to someone who is unfamiliar with baptism baptism, it's a very strange concept to like dip your head in the water. So if I don't actually have those conversations with her, talk it through, she doesn't learn that it's a cultural practice, a religious practice, she may see that as like weird.
Yeah.
But since, you know, since she comes home, she talks about it with me. She was asking strange questions too, like, oh, do they dunk a newborn baby's head under the water? And I'm like, no, they don't drown babies. They just, you know, put their head back and pour some water on their head. But you know, those are real questions that children have, and they don't necessarily get the opportunity to ask them. So sometimes when kids, you know, they see things that are different from what they know, they just kind of like keep it inside, and that in the future could turn into prejudice. And that's something that's been really powerful about this program. Like, you know, she's actually going, and she really liked the Gurudwara when she went, especially because they had food. And it was funny too, because they got pizza for the kids, but they also had desi food. And she was like, can I go and get that instead? So she actually snuck back and got some, and she loved it. But that was her favorite one because of the food. But, you know, now she has these very real memories and very real interactions that she wouldn't have otherwise had outside of this program.
So important. It's so important.
It is.
I know at my high school, we had to study the major world religions. We had a whole year, actually, of this religion class that we took. And it's something that I think has really helped me to navigate how I think about religion and spirituality and stuff. So I think it's awesome that these kids are getting that experience at an even younger age. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Really awesome.
And I think it's super helpful for not only the middle schoolers, but also the high schoolers that come. Because as I mentioned, you know, they're the ones facilitating the discussions. Like I made sure the program was able to happen, but having those conversations, I'm walking around, but they are the ones that are really having them. So I feel like it's super beneficial because like the middle schoolers asking them these questions, and then these are also difficult questions to answer. So it's also a skill to know how to answer those questions, how to go about those conversations. So I think it's super beneficial for both parties involved.
Yeah, for sure. Even just learning how to interact about kind of these higher topics, these, you know, deeper topics than like, you know, just saying bruh back and forth, which is what I think a lot of middle schoolers are doing. Or watching TikTok videos. They're having these like deeper conversations about, you know, what does this mean in this faith? And, you know, learning from a kid who's in high school, seeing how they're interacting, it's been really beneficial to have that experience.
It's really formative experiences for sure.
Yeah, it's been really great. And it's great to hear that next year it won't be the same. She was actually asking about that. She said, are we going to go to all the same places? Because you're hitting so many different places. So that's great that it's going to be.
Yeah, we're going to try to rotate because I feel like, you know, it can get boring if they.
If they're in the same place.
All the time. Yeah, no, that's really exciting. And do the parents get involved at all, or is it just a drop off, or is it?
Yeah. So actually, when I was in middle school, the way I remembered it was I just kind of got dropped off, and you know, parents would come for pickup. But one thing that I really wanted to like incorporate was the parents more, because like we said, like anybody can learn from this program, especially for the beginning part when we just take a tour of the facilities and like learn about, you know, what religion is happening and what they're talking about. And so yeah, like I encourage the parents to come and stay. Like I know Sanam almost always does stay, which is great. But
For the food.
yeah, so I think it's beneficial for the parents to stay too, but obviously that's just up to them.
Okay, that's exciting. That's really exciting.
Was there a reason that middle school in particular was chosen instead of like elementary or high school?
Not that I necessarily know of. I do think that with elementary school, some of the topics we talk about can be a little bit too complex. And so I feel like having them in the middle school age range makes it so that we can have these conversations while being a little bit more digestible for them. And then also I think the reason we chose middle schoolers versus high schoolers is because a lot of the interactions and beliefs you form in middle school, you know, carry on into high school. So we feel like, you know, having them learn about these important things as early on as they can is beneficial for them without it being like too difficult for them to understand at a super, super young age.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a great age. Like I said, it's a formative age. It's when they're starting to, you know, they're coming from these smaller elementary schools into this bigger pool at the middle schools in town. And I think it's a good time for them to start exploring some of these topics that maybe were more sensitive when they were younger. So I think that's awesome.
And I think in middle school is when you start to really question those things as well.
Absolutely.
I remember like when I was in elementary school, like I just wanted to have fun. Like I didn't really care what we were doing. But then as you get a little bit older, you start, questioning, especially with me coming from an Islamic school, and that was the only thing I was exposed to. I did start thinking, what else is out there? Just out of curiosity. I wonder what other people are doing. And so, yeah, I'm glad that people get that opportunity right now, too, through the STOP program.
That's so exciting.
In the program, do you guys only talk about the religion each week, or do you also do some other community building amongst the kids?
Yeah. So the first 30 minutes when we do the little spiel walkthrough of the facility, that's the main religious aspect of the program. And then after that, when we have the next 40 minutes left, that's when we're really just doing team building, and we're talking about prejudice as a general topic. We do some scenario activities where they'll have to act something out, or they'll have to break down a certain scenario that's given to them, and sometimes they'll have racial aspects to it, or sexual orientation aspects to it, things like that, all sorts of topics. So it's not just religious, and they're kind of tackling debates about prejudice in all shapes and forms.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish there was classes like this more regularly for adults too, the STOP program for parents, how to talk to your kids about this stuff and how to expose them to it. Because I know that's something that as parents we're really motivated to do, to give our kids different experiences and expose them to all different cultures and things like that. So almost like a companion course.
I'd even add on to that and say I think that there's a gap there, because right now you have this new generation of kids, and the schools are very cautious of, making sure they're reading diverse literature, kind of talking about these issues. But you have these kids going back to homes where the parents were not getting the same education. So sometimes you have, a kid that's reading a book where everyone's diverse, but then they go home and their parents are only hanging out with people that look exactly like them. So I think that's another really important thing about this. And, I try to go every week because, I try to keep a very diverse social network, but even within that, there's limitations, because sometimes when you live in a neighborhood, you end up hanging out with your neighbors, or if you go to a certain school, you hang out with the teachers that are there. So you just kind of end up in the communities that you are.
Yeah.
So this program is giving me as a parent an opportunity to step outside of that and go to places that I would, I would never otherwise go to St. Mary's Parish or the Worcester Islamic Center. Those are not places that I go to regularly. But I had the opportunity to go, and it was very interesting. So I do try to stay, but it's interesting that you brought up the parents, because I think that's a big problem that we aren't even necessarily addressing in the schools, where the kids are getting a very different education than the parents did.
And social experience with TikTok and YouTube. And
exactly. And I don't even think a lot of parents recognize that that's happening, that their kids are learning to live in a totally different world with things that are totally different social expectations, and more diverse classrooms.
Absolutely.
And people coming with different backgrounds. So I don't know what the solution is there beyond personal initiative, but there need to be more efforts to educate parents. So this has been a great opportunity for me to kind of tap in there. So
I mean, I think it's a testament also to the power of one voice. This was something that you felt was impactful for you as a kid. You grew up and you're like, hey, this needs to impact more people. And you went and did the footwork, and you don't have kids at the school, obviously. You don't have any skin in the game. It was just you wanted to make a difference. And I would argue that you are and that you have. And I think that's an inspiration to me, certainly. And I'm sure to many of the people watching the show today. So thank you for your efforts to do that.
I'm honored. That's such great praise. Yeah, I mean, it definitely was not an easy endeavor, but I'm so grateful it ended up working out. I think there was a lot of hesitancy with just the general public, with it being something new for a lot of people. And obviously with new, it's it's scary. What's happening? But yeah, I tried to combat that as it went, by having the first meeting at the library, a very safe space that everybody's familiar with. And then kind of from there going on to more specific places that people are I've never been there before. I'm that's okay. That's the point. It'll be great. But yeah, I feel like I've gotten really good feedback from the general public, which is great. And I hope that, more people will choose to get involved with it later on.
Are you working with a group of people, or has this mostly been your initiative?
I had been in contact with the women who run the Sudbury chapter in the very beginning, but the reaching out to, organizations and planning the dates and putting out the forums and advertising to Facebook and parents and reaching out to principals, I basically took that all on, and it was super, super difficult and really hard in the
Sounds
beginning.
like it, yeah.
But I'm probably sounding like a broken record, but I'm so grateful it worked out. Like, I really think it's the best thing that I have done so far. And
Are you
I'm
on
glad.
Facebook, or are you too young for Facebook?
I don't use Facebook,
Yeah,
but I did use Facebook for this, so
Okay,
that was
'cause I was
also a
gonna
learning
say,
curve.
are you in the Better Shrewsbury Facebook group?
I'm in just the regular Shrewsbury community forum group.
Okay, think about joining the Better Shrewsbury
will.
group, because when you need those resources and just
Yeah,
plenty
of
of people
course.
in the Better Shrewsbury group that would be happy to help you, put you in the right direction.
obviously, I'd
I
love
can
it.
think of resources that may be useful to you in the future, and I know other people in the group would too. So please do that.
And we can help you advertise to the Facebook
advertise.
generation.
I'll take it.
We
I'll
can
take
be the
it.
bridge for you.
Yeah.
And we'll just. The only thing you'll have to do to say thank you is just make us some of the banana bread.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
we'll call it even.
That's a given.
Wait, but do you put walnuts in your banana bread?
I
or
do.
no? You
I
do.
do.
Oh, okay.
Is that
Then, yeah.
controversial?
No, that's not controversial.
preferred
that's
for her.
preferred.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, yes,
If
of
you
course.
prefer without,
I'm indifferent. I think I slightly prefer without, but I'm okay. There,
I'll make
I
one
love
batch
walnuts.
just for you.
Yeah, I
One
love
batch,
walnuts. I like a smoother banana bread left over the night before, slightly toasted with a thin layer
Oh, that sounds so
of
good.
Kerrygold on top
Yes,
with
okay.
a hot cup of coffee.
What do you think about chocolate chips in it?
I
Is that-
love
that's
chocolate
okay.
chips in it.
I don't like mixing the
Two separate
chocolate-
batches.
Yes.
You know what? I had a peanut butter banana smoothie today. I love bananas with other flavors.
Sounds
like
great.
Actually, there's very little food
That we agree
Bridget
on.
and I
Really?
agree on.
Yeah, desserts
Interesting.
we mostly agree on. This
Yeah.
is a dessert we
Desserts
don't
we
agree
do,
on.
yeah,
Like,
we
we generally agree. Like we could split a banana bread.
we could probably
Yeah.
split
You
a
just have
banana
to
bread.
take out the chocolate chips in yours and take out the walnuts in yours, and then
It's true.
But we both eat the other. I'd eat the one with walnuts and
yeah.
she'd eat the one
You
with
just have to
chocolate
pass them
chips.
to each other.
Yeah, it just wouldn't be our
true.
preferred. It just wouldn't be our preferred. But that's the middle ground, maybe.
We like never go out to restaurants because
You know
I
it's
will
gonna
list so many and she'll be like, no, none of those. How about some of these? And I'm like, no. So
Well, we try.
we try.
Well,
we try.
Ridha, thank
Yes.
you so much for being on the show today. Thank you for all of your information that you provided about the STOP program and for being a shining light in our community. Thank you.